Hi, I'm Cassie J, LaCourse here at Legendary Beads in Austin, Texas, and I'd like to show you how to make a wire wrap bracelet. This is the bracelet that we'll be constructing. It's made out of some very beautiful labradorite beads, as well as some beautiful peacock pearls. I'll be using 24 gauge wire for this wire wrap demonstration. So what I'm teaching you is a cold connection wire wrap. That means that there's been no heat or solder involved, but it's a very secure wire wrap connection. We're going to start by cutting about 1.5 inches of our 24 gauge wire, and we're going to make our first loop. First order of business is to make a 90-degree bend in our wire. Then I'm going to take my round nose pliers, and I'm going to position them in a perpendicular manner to that bend. I'm going to use my fingers in this instance, and I'm going to bring the wire over the tool. I'm going to hold the base of the wire, and I'm going to take my right wrist, and I'm going to turn it just a quarter turn, and then I'm going to bring the tail under that to finish my loop. So here I have my first loop. What some people make the mistake in jewelry wire wrap technique is they actually leave this wire on the tool when they start to wrap this piece around the main wire. My recommendation would be, once you have a nice loop, you need to stabilize that loop. And by stabilizing, I mean grabbing the loop over both shoulders, which means all the way through the loop. That way you can move all of these wires in any position that you'd like, and you won't mess up your nice loop. So I'm going to take chain nose pliers, and I'm going to grasp the wire at the tip, and starting from my round nose, moving down the wire, I'm going to do a series of 3 loops. You can do 2. Don't do any less than 2 because that makes the most secure connection. I like 3 because I like odd numbers, and I also like it to be part of the design element. Now, I have a little tail here. When you're working with sterling, you want to work as close to your work as possible because sterling is expensive. But I do have a little tail. I'm going to take my flush cutters, and I'm going to snip that off as close as I can. So I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers, and I'm going to go in, and I'm just going to smush that tail closer to the work so that it doesn't get caught on anyone's clothing or skin. So I'm ready to put my first bead on. We're going to use a beautiful piece of labradorite. I'm going to put the wire through the bead, and then I'm going to make another 90-degree bend. See that? I'm going to repeat the original process by putting my round nose perpendicular to the bend, and then I'm going to bring the wire over the top of the tool. I'm going to twist my wrist just a bit, and I'm going to tuck that loop under to finish another nice loop. Now at this point, you're going to start on your second link so that you can leave this link open so that you can connect the 2 in order to construct the bracelet. So I'm going to take another 1.5 inches of wire. I'm going to make a 90-degree bend. This is about 3/4 of an inch here. I'm going to put my tool perpendicular again. And as you can see with the round nose pliers, you have an option to go with larger loops and smaller loops. I usually work about 1/4 inch up on the tool. I'm going to bring the wire over the top of the tool. I'm going to roll my wrist just a bit, and then I'm going to tuck that under the bottom, finishing another loop. I'm going to stabilize, once again, stabilize that which allows you to do anything that you'd like to the wire below. And I'm going to do a series of 3 loops again. So here's where the wire wrap comes into play. You want to pull on the wire as you twist it, and if you get a little bit of space, you can always use your nail to push the link back up, the wraps back up towards your loop. Don't be afraid to use your hands. So again, straighten that guy out just a little bit. See, if I stabilize that, I can do anything to it. I'm going to take my cutters again, my flush cutters. You take the flush side towards your work always. Get in there, cut that little guy off. Take my needle nose, pinch that little piece in, and I've got my other link. So now I'm going to connect this link with my other open. And here's where you start to see the pattern coming together. Now, I'm going to stabilize this other open loop that was on my labradorite. And again, I'm going to do my 3 loops. Okay. Get in there with the flush cutter. That one's giving me a trick. See? I'm going to use a different cutter that's flat on the end to get in because that's a very twisted bead. I'll explain that in just one second. There, I pinched that in. Now, the reason why I switched from these, which are pointed, to these, which are a little bit, as you can see, flattened on the tip, that allowed me to get a little bit closer to the bead in order to trim that off. So there's a link. The next bead is naturally going to be the pearl. So I string my pearl on. Another important thing to note about linking is that you really want your links to go in opposite directions. When you're making a chain, or if you look at a natural chain, the links go in alternating directions. And the reason for that is so that they don't get kinked. So as you can see here, my loop goes what I would call east to west or left to right. And then this one goes up and down or north to south. And then alternating the next one, east to west. And in this instance, when I do my 90-degree bend, I want to do it opposite of that original loop. Does that make sense? See how this one is going this way? And I do my bend this way, so it allows me to roll it this so that they go back and forth. I'm going to grab perpendicular again. I'm going to bring the wire over. I'm going to roll my right wrist just a bit. Tuck that tail under, making a nice loop. And then we're going to leave that open to do our next one. So it is obviously a progression of those steps that allow you to link this nice bracelet together. So that's how you do jewelry wrap links to construct a lovely bracelet.